Hello, this is Uncle Garrett. I hope you're doing wonderful today, because today I'm going to help you find a great boyfriend. Finding a great boyfriend is one of the greatest gifts you can give to yourself. Not because you can't live without a man, but because living a life with a boyfriend who develops into a great husband can be one of the most fulfilling, loving, caring experiences you can have if that husband loves and cares for you, and if he's kind to you. If he truly loves you and you feel that love, it's going to be such a wonderful thing, and it's going to make you so happy. But I have to warn you, you have to take the road not taken. So many women have ended up in divorce, ended up maybe as single mothers, maybe even on the run from a psycho boyfriend. You don't want to go down that path, and I want to help you avoid that today also, to see the warning signs. So first of all, if you're a teenager, don't worry about finding the love of your life. Your goal right now should just be getting experience. When you're young, you're very intelligent, but you're not experienced, and there's no substitute for direct experience. Not sexual experience, mind you, but experience in getting to know boys, how they act, why they act that way, and how to tell the difference between boys that will make you happy and boys that won't. That should be your focus when you're in your teens. In this video, I'm talking primarily to young ladies in their 20s. If you're in your 30s or beyond, there might be some good content for you in here, but I'm talking primarily to the young ladies on the search for their first husband. Now, you might be thinking, I'm young and I'm beautiful. I just want to go out and have fun. I just want to experience sex, maybe with many different people, and get experience that way. I just want to have fun. Nothing wrong with a little fun, right? However, that's a line being sold to you by, unfortunately, some creepy people who just want sexual availability to your body and leave you an emotional mess because they don't care about you. They don't care about what state they leave you in after they've used you. They just want sexual availability to your body. So many women have followed that path, having fun in their 20s, sex with many, many different men. And then in their 30s, they find themselves second choice. And then in their 40s, they're completely ignored. And the 50s and beyond are just lonely and bitter. You don't want that for yourself. Now, you might be thinking, oh, here's just another white guy from the patriarchy coming to oppress me. Don't listen to him. Unfortunately, that's a message from the sexuarchy. The sexuarchy is much more dangerous. They are those creepy people who just want sexual availability. They want to sacrifice you on the bloody altar of their sexual entertainment. They want to rule you sexually. They want to tell you what to do sexually. Don't listen to them. I'm offering a time-proven method of building a happy and fulfilled life. The sexuarchy are actually the true misogynists. Don't listen to them. And you know what? You have a lot less time than you think. What people don't like to talk about is that women experience a marked decline in fertility in their 30s, usually around the age of 37. In your 20s, women can get pregnant so easily with barely more than a smile from their man. In their 30s, it becomes a question of timing and taking temperatures and working to get pregnant. And then in the 40s, it's usually expensive medical interventions. Yes, women have conceived naturally in their 40s, but don't be fooled by anecdotes. It's not something that you can rely on, because the problem is, if you don't have children, usually about the time your biology starts pressing you to have children, that's when it becomes difficult to conceive. And how do I know that? That's because fertility clinics make a killing. They make lots of profit, and their waiting rooms are not filled with women in their 20s. Now, you might be thinking right now, I don't want children. Children are such a pain. I don't like children. Well, here's the thing. Children who are raised in love return that love to their parents times 10. The only people who are a pain to parents are to parents who have caused them pain in the past. Lastly, if you don't like children right now, that attitude will likely change when you're older because your biology will push you towards it. Again, how do I know? Because fertility clinics make a lot of money. And lastly, if you're listening to me right now, you're a unique and special person. That's because you're interested in building a happy and fulfilled life for yourself, and you're willing to listen to the voice of experience to do that. The world needs more of people like you. The world needs you to make more people like you. So let's get going and make the world a better place. So, what makes a great boyfriend? Rich, great body, sexy, nice tats, maybe educated, intelligent. Can you even control who you fall in love with? Well, the answer is quite simple. A great boyfriend makes a great future husband and a great future father. Given that there are only 2 votes that really count, your future self and your future children. But how do you tell the future? That's hard, right? Well, yes and no. Yes, because boyfriends always give you clues and signs about how they will behave in the future. And no, because sometimes it's too easy to be willfully blind to their faults. You've probably heard the saying, love is blind, meaning that when you're in love, you're the only one who can't see that your boyfriend is a total asshole. More on love blindness later. But first, how do you know how your future self and your future children will think of your boyfriend? There is one characteristic that is more important than anything else, and it encompasses most everything else. And that is someone who realizes that they are a flawed person and wants to become a better person. What makes a great person, man or woman, is the acknowledgement that they are sometimes terrible and they want to be not so terrible in the future. And they have dedicated their life to becoming a better person every day, every month, and every year. Given that, a great boyfriend is probably a better person now than he was last year. But here's the tricky part. A horny guy will say just about anything to get a score. So how do you tell the difference between someone who is truly into self-improvement, who truly wants to become a better person all the time, and someone who's just saying that to get to your naughty bits? Here we can learn something from the business world. The business world has learned how to interview job candidates very well. And your boyfriend is actually applying for the job of husband and father. If you get any clue that your boyfriend does not want either job, if he just wants your body, if he just wants access to you sexually for an orgasm or 3, just drop him. He's trash. One thing the business world has learned interviewing job candidates is that past behavior is a determinant of future behavior. So before, managers used to ask something like, well, job candidate, are you a hard worker? And the guy says, oh yes, definitely, I'm a very hard worker. And the manager says, okay, great, okay, you're hired. And then later on they find that this person likes to watch YouTube videos of kittens rather than work hard. So now they've refined the interviewing process. They've made it better, and they say things like, well, job candidate, are you a hard worker? And they say, oh, yes, sir, I'm a very hard worker. So then they say, okay, great. Give me an example of how you worked hard in your last job. So then the candidate says, oh, yes, sometimes I work 70 or 80 hours a week. And then the manager says, well, long hours do not necessarily mean hard work. Can you give me an example of how you worked hard and you actually accomplished something? And then the candidate says, oh, well, yeah, there was this one time, yeah. And then the manager says, oh, well, I thank you for your time. Thanks for coming here, and good luck in your career. And you can apply these very same concepts when you're out on a date. You can ask a boy, do you believe in making yourself a better person all the time? And your date might say, oh, yeah, definitely. That's a great idea. I do that. Uh-huh. Well, don't take ambiguous answers, of course. You can ask then, oh, great. Can you give me an example of some flaw you had that you overcame in the last year? And they might say, oh, whoa, baby, that's a bit heavy. Let's get a beer and walk on the beach. At which point you can say, although I'm young, I don't have very much time, and I'd like to get a great husband as soon as practical. So thank you for your time, and I can see we're not a great fit. Have a good night. Bye-bye. Or you can ask your date, how should people resolve conflicts? And your date might say, oh, well, I think people should talk it out and listen and try to understand one another and come to an agreement. And you could say, oh, that's a good idea. That sounds nice. Can you give me an example of how you applied that, maybe with your sister or brother or friend in the last year or so? At this point, they might not like that. They might get upset. And that's a sign that you have to listen to. Or they might try and stumble through. They say, oh, yeah, one time, oh, yeah, my brother and I had a fight about who could ride the dirt bike. But we worked it out. And then you can ask, well, how did you work it out? And you might say, oh, well, we agreed that I could take it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and my brother could take it Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Oh, yeah? Oh, that's great. How long did that take to come to that agreement? And then he might say, oh, well, we actually kind of fought for like a month until my dad made us work it out. He said none of us could have the dirt bike unless we had an agreement, and so we did. And then press him some more. Ask him, oh, so you only work things out when you're under duress? And again, he might react badly, but that's a good thing. Why is that a good thing? Well, take the example of a pride of lions. Sometimes a pride of lions might lose their alpha male. When that happens, other males will approach that pride and they'll want to become the alpha male. And what do the lionesses say? Do they say, oh, great, so happy to have a male here. All right, come and be our alpha male. No, they don't at all. You know what actually happens? They tear him to shreds. They attack him. They hurt him. Why? Because that male has to be tested. He has an incredibly difficult job ahead of him. He has to be the one who responds first and is on the front lines of any attack on the pride. He has to be the one who has to mount a wildebeest, something 5 times his size. He has to dodge the kicking hooves and get on top and do the takedown. The lionesses can take it from there, but the big, strong, heavy male has to do the heavy lifting. And you can learn from those lionesses. You have to take on some of their characteristics. You have to test your future man. Why? Because, well, life is hard. There's going to be hard times in your marriage. There's going to be conflict. How is he going to handle that? Is he going to handle that with strength? Is he going to handle that with patience and kindness and the strength to not lash out to you? Or is he going to be weak and lash out like a little boy? You have to test him. Now, before I mentioned the blindness of love, why do people get love blind? Well, here's the reason. It's because of investment. Investment, you say? Are you going to lecture me about stocks and bonds? No, not that type. Not the financial type. I'm talking about the investment of your emotions and your body. You have to understand your body. It can fall in love too. Actually, when you hug and kiss a man, a special hormone called oxytocin is released. When you have sex with someone, that oxytocin is released in massive quantities. That's a drug. It's a hormone that bonds you to someone. It's a hormone that tells your brain, stick with this person. Don't give him up. That's the investment of your body. And that can lead to love blindness. And that's why you never ever rush into a physical relationship, and especially not before you've tested him. So the overall lesson here is, before you invest anything, test him and test him well. And that will help you prevent love blindness. I've given you a couple of examples of how you can test your man. What are some other areas you can probe him in? One of the most important things to look out for is how a man treats his family and his friends, and especially his family. Watch him when he comes home to his family. Is it a happy reunion? Are they happy to see him? Does it ever devolve into a shouting match with anger and bitterness? This is his low-level programming, his default programming on how to treat families, including your future family. He might be able to treat you very nicely for a long time, but eventually he's going to treat you almost exactly the same way he treats his parents and his family in general. Now, there might be an exception to this. If someone has had a very hard childhood with toxic parents, he might have chosen to separate himself from them. He might be in the process of rebuilding himself, overriding his original default programming to become a better husband and a better father for you. And part of that process might involve him cutting off contact with his potentially abusive parents. So this is a possible exception, but also if someone says that to you, if he's cut off contact with his parents, be certain, do some double checking. Is this because his parents were abusive or because he's a problem for them? Another very important thing to look out for is the love bomb. A love bomb is a sign of a very dangerous person. A psychopathic person often employs the love bomb as a hook to get their next prey. A love bomb is constant attention and praise, lavish gifts, and it seems unending, and the person who experiences that is overwhelmed with positive emotions. But this is only the hook, and they are the fish. Don't become that fish, because after the love bomb has hooked its prey, that's when the insults and humiliation begin. And you would do anything to go back to that love bomb, but that's already exploded, and that's done. And now the process of wearing down his prey begins. And the goal is to get that person so utterly emotionally broken down that they feel worthless and 100% helpless without the psychopath. The psychopath wants to cut her off from her family and her friends so that they don't know what's going on. Sometimes they move to a place where their family and friends don't even know where she is. And if you see the love bomb, just run like hell. Another thing to look out for is unprocessed trauma. This is trauma that hasn't been analyzed and processed and recognized and overcome. This is trauma that causes bad behavior. Signs of unprocessed trauma are disproportionate lashing out with anger to seemingly innocent statements or things that happen, just events that hurt them, and their response is way out of proportion to the situation. Other signs are depression, alcoholism, drug abuse, all signs of unprocessed trauma. Be on the lookout for that. Another sign of unprocessed trauma is excessive piercings, tattoos, styles that scream at people for attention, styles that are just meant to shock people. That's a sign of the trauma of neglect. Usually childhood neglect leads to behavior like this, and this is something to look out for. Does that mean everybody with lots of tattoos and piercings has unprocessed trauma? Perhaps not, but it's something you need to ask about. What are the antecedents to this? What caused this? Why do they behave like this? Also, watch how he treats other people he hasn't met. Does he treat them with kindness and consideration? Especially how he treats people who can do nothing for him or he considers lower on the social stratus than him. Watch how he treats them. I've known people who treat nurses terribly, but then turn around and just kiss up to doctors. How does he treat restaurant servers, hotel maids? Does he think about other people and his impact on them? You'll want a boyfriend who is good with children. How do you know he's good with children? He might say so, and remember, sometimes guys are willing to say anything to get the keys to your kingdom. So one way to tell for sure, volunteer at a children's shelter. Children's shelters are always looking for volunteers. They would love for you and your boyfriend to come in and help with the children. And then you have the opportunity to watch him, and he has the opportunity to watch you too. Look, I could go on and on about warning signs. There are too many to count. But I think you'll know them when you see them if you're paying attention. You want a young man who's strong enough to respond to stress and maybe an inadvertent insult or something that hurts his feelings. You want him to respond with the strength of character, to not lash out in anger, but instead say something like, "Hey, what you said just now kind of hurt my feelings. I know you probably didn't mean to, so I'm wondering what you meant by that." This kind of curiosity is a sign of strength and love and what you want in a man. And maybe he's not that way right away. But then again, it comes back to the fundamental, the one important characteristic that he's always willing to improve himself. So maybe he doesn't know everything now. Maybe he's not a perfect guy who always knows what to say and never lashes out in anger, but someone who is willing to learn to do that and has the strength to do so. Now, you might be thinking, I don't know anyone who lives up to these high standards. Or maybe the only guy I know who is really good at self-improvement and is a really good guy is about 10 years older than me and is kind of ugly. Or maybe there are some really high-quality guys there that are good-looking and your age, but they're not really interested in you. Well, not all is lost. Now is the time to take some lessons from the business world again. Marketing. How do you market yourself? Well, the first step in marketing is to know your customer. So, where does that boyfriend of yours go? Where does he like to spend his time? What is his hobbies? One of the most important exercises in marketing is what they call the creation of avatars. These are imaginary people that represent the customer that they are targeting. Likewise, you can make an avatar or 2 or 3 of a boyfriend you would like. So, again, what are his likes and dislikes? Where does he like to go on in his free time? What are his hobbies? What kind of girls is he interested in? Of course, you want to make yourself into the reciprocal prize of the great guy you're looking for. So next, target that avatar boyfriend. Go to where he's going. Join the clubs that he's in. Maybe it's some kind of co-ed sport. Maybe it's a hiking club or dance lessons. Whatever the case, you need to go where he is. And you know what? He's searching for you too. You can also use internet dating. Internet dating can be a pain sometimes, but it can also yield great results. My wife and I are about to celebrate our 16th year anniversary, and we couldn't be happier. So that's one more success story for internet dating. Another advantage of internet dating is that you can ask some of these questions early on through text and email and sort out the people who aren't interested in that sort of thing at all, and you don't have to waste time on them. But don't try to do all your testing and screening through email and text. You also want to ask some of your questions in real time and see how they react to real life, real-time stress. You can also weed out people who are just low potentials by stating some things on your profile. You can say things like, well, you aren't getting the keys to the kingdom without the ring of commitment. Or, I'm looking for a mentally and spiritually strong man who can react with love and kindness even in the face of conflict. So in summary, remember that the most reliable path to a happy and fulfilled life by far is finding a great husband who loves and cares for you and is kind to you and your children. Don't fool around sexually. That just delays your path to a happy and fulfilled life, and it degrades you. It's not worthy of you. There are people in the world who just want to use your beautiful young body sexually. Don't grant that to them because they don't care anything about you. And remember, great people are not measured by their merit at any given moment, but by the one great important characteristic, the love of becoming a better and better person who is better able to handle stressful situations with love and kindness rather than lashing out in anger. So in that sense, also make yourself the great woman that your great man is looking for. Create an avatar or 2 or 3 and exercise marketing skill to go out and find that person, that great man, that great boyfriend who will become the husband who loves and cares for you and your children. This video has been a labor of love. My wife and I have worked on it so hard, and we do it just so that some of you can find that life of happiness and fulfillment. So if you found this useful to you, please like this video. I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment if you can. Share it with your friends. Share it with people you love and who would also like to obtain this life of fulfilled happiness. The world needs more people who are happy and in love and raising children who are loved and educated. Children who are raised in love don't abuse drugs. They don't commit suicide. And the world needs more children like that to grow into young adults who will also make their own children like that. The world needs people like you. The world needs you to live a happy, fulfilled life, and I hope you attain that. So for now, goodbye. This is Uncle Garrett.